Okay, so my presentation is on the importance of having standardized testing in schools. So just a little bit of background about standardized testing. For more than 50 years throughout the United States, students have been getting ready with their number 2 pencils to endure 4 hours of stressful test taking. According to the education reform, a definition for standardized testing is a test in consideration in the form of 1, requires all test takers to answer the same questions or in the same form, and 2, that this is scored in a standard manner which is possible to compare the relevant performance of each individual student. So in Texas in general, standardized testing was first known as the Texas Educational Assessment for Minimum Skills, or TEAMS. This test was used in primary and secondary public and charter schools in order to assess students' knowledge of reading, writing, math, and social studies that are required under the Texas Standards of Education. Over the years, the TEAMS tests converted into the TAS test, TAX test, and now is known as the STAR test, or the State of Texas Assessment of Academic Readiness. The new STAR test, which was implemented in 2012, requires that all students in primary and secondary schools test their knowledge learning in particular grade levels. This test has intensified and changed its rigorousness of the end-of-the-year course assessments. Instead of joining 9th, 10th, and 11th grade subjects, they now must be linked from grade to grade in order to prepare them for their English 3 and Algebra 1 end-of-the-course assessments. So just to talk about those who are in favor of standardized testing, there's research showing that 93% of studies found that students have actually had a positive effect on standardized testing and are reliable and objective scoring. Without these tests, policymakers have claimed that they would be unable to rely on testing scores of individual schools and teachers, because those teachers would be in favor of them having a positive outcome. Standardized tests are inclusive and non-discriminatory because they ensure the content of each test is equivalent for all students. According to former Washington, D.C. School Chancellor, Michelle Rhee, the use of alternative tests for minorities or exempting children with disabilities would be unfair to those students. You cannot separate them, and trying to do so creates 2 unequal systems, as a direct quote from the Chancellor. So why should we be against standardized testing? Many people against standardized testing state that it evaluates students' performance only on that particular day without including external factors. So many students develop test anxiety, and so this plays into the role of their performance on the test. If a student is having a bad day or something is weighing heavily on their mind, it will affect the way that they test. One of the biggest concerns about standardized testing is the testing enforces students to teach to the test and not really focusing on other subjects that could be used for knowledge in college or in their careers. This pressure on tests has been on both the teachers and the students and leads to an increase in stress. An example of this increased stress is students in Oklahoma are required to take 4 continuous exams, and if they do not pass these standardized tests, they do not receive their diploma. This sort of stress can lead to health issues or could lead to students looking for alternative ways in order to improve their testing scores. So, what can be done? Student and educators spend too much time on testing, and the state requires in grades 3 through 8 to be tested once a year in its selective core courses. Therefore, the state requires that students take no more than 5 exams per year. This makes up about 20% of their overall learning. So what can we do to replace standardized testing? There are 2 examples that I have found. Each example has been very beneficial for those schools who have tried it. One example is the career portfolio. It is known as the portfolio-based assessment, where the teachers create a portfolio for each individual student. And during the school year, the students and teachers will gather work that they have accumulated over the year, which shows the students' progress and achievements in various subjects, such as English or science. And this reflection has shown improvement in students, and it helps them with their own learning processes. They can go back and see what they have done in the past that wasn't working for them, and they can improve and grow on that. At the end of the year, the teachers evaluate each portfolio with the student, and it's called a learning record, and it's attached evidence such as writing samples and science write-ups, and this approach is useful for students and parents in determining how well a student is progressing. Another example is a project-based learning, where students are in groups of multiple students where they can grow and interact with other students, and this is really beneficial for the workforce because most of the time, or many of the times, you have to work in a group of people in order to get a task done. So in conclusion, standardized testing should not be the focus of schools. It should just be something that can help improve students, but it shouldn't be required and add extra stress on students that already have a lot going on and a lot on their plate, especially those who are getting ready to go into the workforce or starting to get ready for college. It takes away the focus from their overall learning experience. So standardized testing shouldn't be the focus of schools. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.